Hey everyone, my name is Dmitry Muktasimov. I have 13 years of Python development experience and 26 years of software engineering experience. So I want to share my experience with you, and today I want to talk about Python package manager that I use. Well, I had quite a history of using different Python package managers, and I have it here. So in back to 2010 to 2011, actually it was kind of ancient time where, if someone remember, this easy install was there, and this tool called build out, which was downloading those egg files. That was something where I first time learned about Python. Actually, first time I learned about Python when working in Google, but I wasn't impressed that well. It was like one more language to learn. But later, working in grid dynamics, I actually started using it for quality assurance, and then I figured out those two package managers. I didn't really like them. And then next point in history is 2012 to 2015. I switched to pip, requirements.txt, and setup.py. I was using them all together. So the setup.py was reading the requirements from requirements.txt file, and then it was installed. Well, the reason why I use setup.py, and actually in the following years as well, the reason is that it does two things. First, it actually makes it a package, so they kind of related. So with setup.py, you can make a real Python package that you can upload to PyP, or just have this .gz file that you can copy somewhere and then install it there into a virtualenv or into system Python libraries. That's why I used setup.py. And the second reason is that I could, with setup.py, since it's a package, the Python package, I could install it into virtualenv in a development mode. This means that so it just puts the pointer to the directory of your source code into virtualenv, so you can modify the source code, and then it's available in the virtualenv right away. And then after that, I thought, well, requirements.txt is actually a kind of excessive. I could put all the information into setup.py itself, and so there was a period of time from 2015 to 2017 when I was using pip and setup.py together. Well, it obviously had some drawbacks. One of them is maintaining dependencies. And so at that time I realized that actually there are dependencies, direct dependencies and sub-dependencies in your project. For example, a certain library could be required for your project, and then this certain library actually requires other libraries. So they are called sub-dependencies. And I really wanted to maintain reliable deployments where I want exact versions everywhere, exact versions of my dependencies everywhere, on my local development machine, on test environment, on development environment, and of course in production environment. So I was maintaining them inside setup.py file, so all the versions were written there. And there were sub dependencies which I have to maintain somehow as well, but because I was not exporting current installed versions of the libraries in requirements.txt. It was kind of semi-manual process with setup.py. So it was not ideal, and then I was trying to figure out how it can be improved. And the next step of my journey was 2018 to 2020, and I discovered ppenv. It was a great tool at that time. I mean, it allowed first to solve my issue with this lock-in dependencies issue, where you installed something with ppenv and it had a log file where all the current versions of libraries, dependencies, direct dependencies, and sub-dependencies are written down. And whenever you want to install or deploy your application, well, the ppenv will be using that log file, and you have exact same versions of libraries everywhere in your local development environment, in test environments, and in production environments. The other good feature of ppenv was allowing you to manage version length with the same tool. So ppenv was my favorite tool for a while, like 2 or 3 years, as you see. But later I actually faced another issue with ppenv that couldn't be resolved. It wasn't a big issue, it wasn't a very often thing, but I was discovering other possibilities to do package management in Python, and then I found Poetry. It was great. It has a much better user interface, but it's not the most important feature that I liked about it. The most important feature I liked about it, that apart from having these log files, it also had the feature of resolving dependencies of like conflicting dependencies of your dependencies. So sub-dependencies, imagine like you depend on your project depend on two libraries, A and B, and each of them depend on library C. So library A depends on library C, and library B depends on library C as well. But they depend on different versions of library C. And sometimes, I would say that most of the times, these versions of library C, even if they are not exactly given for a library A and B, they kind of compatible. Like, for example, library A might require any version of library C that is greater than 2.1, and library B might require library C of any version that is greater than 2.2. So basically, version 2.2 of library C satisfies both your dependencies A and B. So that what often happens, but sometimes those sub-dependencies versions don't overlap, and that's what Poetry helps with. So it automatically resolves those dependencies, tries to use the best possible version of sub-dependency that you could have, and if it's not possible, it will just fail with an error, and you will know about that, and it's not going to be a hidden error for you that might fire in production, but you will know it at the moment of the development. So this is great. And another step, maybe, I'm not sure, I just learned about it today. It's Hatch tool that has some nice features. I just read about it in some blog, and it's just something that I have to discover. But one thing, it looks like that it has better features than poetry, except for that it doesn't support, doesn't fully support PEP specifications. So I'll look into it. All right, and so let's take a look at poetry, how it works. Oh, the other thing is, even now, when I enter a new project, it's quite often that people still use requirements.txt. It's like 12 years old technology. Well, I often do change it. I often do change it to poetry. One more thing to mention is that poetry works really well with PyEnv. I covered PyEnv in my previous video. I will leave a link to that video if you want to learn about it. But now let's just try poetry and see how it works. So first, let's use the latest Python interpreter that I have. To do so, let's see what I have here. So I have a 3.10, and let's switch to 3.12 with PyEnv. Okay, next thing, we actually need to install poetry. To as you remember, every Python interpreter version that you install with PyEnv has its own isolated environment from other versions, so we have to install poetry for each of them. And since I installed this 3.12.4 just yesterday, I haven't managed to install poetry there. Well, I have to use pip to install poetry. It's kind of the only thing that I use to pip for it nowadays. So let's install poetry. Install poetry. Okay, done. We can also upgrade pip here. That's it. All right, now we have poetry, and we can initialize a new project. Init. You say poetry init, and it will ask you a bunch of questions. Package name, version description. You can skip being author, license, and you see it picked a version of Python that is being chosen. Is chosen with PyEnv, and I don't want to install any dependencies, so I say no and no, and it just asks for confirmation. I say yes. There's one thing you see here, readme file is set, but we don't have any readme file. And as you see, this poetry created this PyProject tom file, and we can also list all the files. So we have Python version file, which comes from PyEnv, and we have PyProject toml, which comes from poetry. But I want to fix this readme reference because I don't have readme right now, and I want to modify PyProject toml file. I will just remove this. Okay. and save it. So right now we have initialized the project. What else we can do with Poetry? So one thing, if you open this PyProject file, you can see that there is a package name, and it actually should expect my package model in Python. Okay, let's see what it's gonna do. Usually I don't initialize it like this. I really have some sort of boilerplate code. But now let's see. We can say Poetry install. It should install all the dependencies. We don't have any dependencies. Okay, so it goes with error message. So it tries to install the package, but it doesn't find anything. Okay, let's create one. And my package. And we also want to create a init file there. So init.py. Don't worry, in the next videos I'm going to use IDE, so it will be more convenient for me as well and for you to understand. But right now we just learning about Poetry, and we don't really need an IDE now. Well, let's see. Okay, so let's try again. No errors. So it installed my package into virtualenv. And the other thing you can notice here, it created virtualenv. And you can actually see the virtualenv here. So Poetry manages virtualenv for you out of the box. You don't have to use other tools. And you can see lib here, Python subpackages, and you see here my package. It's the package that was installed with Poetry. And I actually show you one more thing later now. One of the other reasons why I liked and when I switched to setup.py is that I want to have my code available no matter what directory I'm in. And I'm going to demonstrate that soon. But for now, let's install let's say Django, and see what are we going to have in PyProject TOML, and how the log file will be created. All right, so we say Poetry add Django, and it's going to add Django. It's also, you see, it installs Django dependencies. Now let's see what happened to our directory. So you see a new file here, Poetry log. Let's examine the PyProject first. You see here the dependencies. So Django is installed as a dependency, and it picked version 5.0.7. And let's open a Poetry log file and see what is there. As you see, it has sub dependencies here, sjref 3.8.1, and you see there is no hat, and for Django version is no hat before the version. It's just exact version. When you start installing or deploying this application, it's going to install exact this version, so you can have consistent builds. consistent deployments. So this is the log file that we have. You don't have to understand how the structure of the log file. I often don't do that. I just sometimes take a look if something has changed there. But usually Poetry just takes care of it automatically. You just need to install or uninstall applications. Oh, sorry, libraries. So we installed Django and just let's install REST framework as well. If I remember it correctly, it should be named like this. No, not like the. Let's see, Django REST framework. Okay, installation. How it's okay? Django REST framework. One word. And we add it as well. All right. So we have this Django REST framework here as well. We should have it. REST. So sure. Here it is. So we have again we have exact version of Django REST framework. All right, now let's see what can we do. Poetry it has a feature of activating the virtual env. You don't have to know what directory it is in, as long as you have configured where it is. So I have the virtual env directory configured to be here. So all my virtual envs are here in virtual envs, in .versions and virtual envs directory. And I can activate, say, in Poetry shell. And now we have the virtual env activated. We can run Python. And let's try to import Django. Here's it. It works. Django version. Does it work? Yeah. All right. So and we can exit. And again, version is not active. The other thing you can do, you can actually run Python code. Import Django just by using Poetry run. It will activate the virtual env for you, and then execute the command in that virtual env. Oh, it did it. All right, let me show one more thing, and I think that would be enough for now. So we have this directory structure, and there is my package. Let's create a model in my package model, kind of sub model. My package. Okay, and let's say it is print me. Okay, let it be hello pie, and we are going to say here hello world. All right, now you can easily run it. Let's use that command Python run Poetry run, and we say run this as model, run this code from model. That was hello, right? It says hello world. And now let's change directory to my home directory, for example, and I can repeat this command. Oh yeah, interesting thing, actually it's not gonna work here because the Python interpreter is not local. But let's do something different. Let's change to this directory back again, and create another directory there inside, and switch to it. And now you can run, and the code works. It doesn't matter what directory you're in, as long as your Python interpreter is available. It just works. It activates your virtual env, and then it works. We can also do it with activated virtual env. Let's say poetry shell. In this case, we don't need to use poetry run. We can just use Python. We run Python, and we can let's change to actually temporary directory, and say that we are going to use 3.12.4 interpreter, and try to run our code again, and it works. You can also use run. It doesn't hurt anything, so even if your virtual env is activated, this would work as well. Couldn't find PyProject. That's another thing. Unexpectedly, yeah, it's just poetry run is not going to work that easily. But as long as you have virtual env activated, it will work from any directory. But if we want to use poetry run, you might need to say in what directory your PyProject home is located. I think it's done like this. Yeah, it works. So basically that's it. That's the tool that I use on every project since 2020. And I really recommend you, if you are not using poetry right now, I really recommend you to switch to poetry. It's really a great tool, and it allows you to not worry too much about dependencies. I didn't show all the features. For example, it can install development dependencies. It can export requirements.txt if you want it. Maybe for some deployment reasons you might want to have requirements.txt. But for development, you don't really need it. You can just run poetry install. I just want to show you another interesting feature of poetry. Let's switch back to our directory, and say I use pip install to install like pdb.py, which is Python debugger ++, and I install it, and now we have it in our list of installed packages, but this is not really in PyProject home. So you can do some cleanup like this. You say poetry install sync, and it will just remove the libraries that don't belong to the project. It will do it according to this log file. Alright, thank you very much for watching this video. If you have questions, please add them in the comments below, and see you in the next video.